behalf and give free advice. Our telephone number is on the reverse of all British Gas bills, in the telephone directory under Gas, and also on posters in Gas showrooms. If you need help, it's worth a call.
I define you to define me, if you can.
Well, it's somewhat under attack at the moment because of events in the past 3, 4, 5 years, past decade certainly. They've attracted a lot of legislative attention, so that they're really rather unsure, I think. But essentially, it remains the same. A relatively small number of magazine publishers publishing a vast number of different titles, many of which change every 6 or 12 months or so. And a relatively small number of people running sex cinemas, videos, and things like that. Concentrated overwhelmingly in Soho, for a variety of reasons, but that seems to be the heart of the business, if you like, even though sex shops have now spread throughout the country.
I hated the way I was treated, but the job seemed glamorous, sophisticated. It was a far cry from the drudgery of minimum wage office work.
The new legislation which concerns Soho overwhelmingly concerns sex shops, and what it means is that owners and proprietors of sex shops have to have a licence from Westminster Council. That process hasn't really started yet, but already a few places have been weeded out, and it's certainly the aim of the council to reduce the number of sex shops in the Soho area to about 20, which will mean an awful lot will have to go. But again, as always seems to be the case, there's a loophole in the legislation, and what are known as peep shows, which are effectively like strip clubs, only you put 50p in for every 4 minutes that you watch, and then a shutter comes down so you can't watch anymore. Therefore, they're highly lucrative compared with the old strip clubs. Within the past 2 or 3 months, some 10 or 12 of these have opened up.
For the cover shot, I jumped 87 times off a coffee table onto a hard mat. I counted because it was such a nightmare.
Straightforward greed, I think, financial greed. It's an easy way to make money. If you do get into the business and manage to escape too many prosecutions, then you can make an awful lot of money. One sort of porn cinema at the height about 2 years ago was taking £15,000 a week. That's a lot of money. And their overheads are very, very small. I think it's sheer greed that motivates most of the people.
Unlike the men we served, most of us had no job mobility and few economic resources.
Pornography is produced by men, for men. The women in the pictures are not the ones making the big profits in the porn trade. Since pornography is made by men for men, perhaps the view of human sexuality it offers can fairly be said to be a masculine one.
At the moment, Kate and I are involved in the Pornography is Violence Against Women campaign, which has come out of WAVEL, which is a general organisation of Women Against Violence Against Women. And we're in the process of organising a fortnight of action against pornography in May, in which groups throughout the country of women who are angry about pornography and angry about violence against women in pornography are going to be taking action in their individual towns and cities, and hopefully it's going to be coordinated so that women are going to be doing pickets, they're going to be destroying pornography, they're going to be publicising why women are angry about pornography. And at the end of the 2 weeks there's going to be a national demonstration in London where women are going to occupy Soho, and hopefully thousands of women are going to come down to London to show how angry they are at pornography, and to go into Soho, which is an area usually which women cannot go in without being harassed.
Well, I think you've got to realise the scope of what we're up against at the minute. I mean, it's I don't think it's going to be very easy for the situation with porn in this country is going to, to change, You're talking about an international, multi-million-pound industry that's just boomed in the past, like, half a dozen years, that oppresses, like, thousands, if not millions, of women and girls, most of whom are poor and, haven't got much choice about it, And there's very little that I think we can do until we can get across to women, until we can all sort of realise the extent of the violence that goes on in porn. I mean, we're not talking about, a few sort of kinky photographs of women or something. I mean, I think that would be quite bad if we were just talking about that, but we're talking about pictures of women being mutilated.
I think a lot of women go through a lot of time being told that if they don't like pornography then they're hung up and they're prudes. I mean, I was certainly told that when I was shown pornography by my boyfriend years ago. And it took me a long time to actually realise that it wasn't that I was hung up about sex, I just didn't like the images of my body, of myself and of other women that were being shown, which were about humiliating me and making me and other women into an object. That made me really, it makes me angry to think that I spent a lot of time agonising over the fact that I wasn't into sex because I didn't like it. I didn't like these pictures. And I feel angry about that because I feel angry that I was made to believe that I wasn't normal, what men to call women to be normal.
I support all the women in this country, whether they're 15 or 50, who are angry and, feel assaulted by porn. I think that we spend far too long trying to pretend that we're all liberal, yelling trendy things, and that anything goes, I think we've got a reason to be angry about it. And I think that when women get angry about it and start saying that we've had enough of it, then we can start getting rid of the vast stockpiles of the stuff which are now in this country.
I can remember a few years ago going on the first Reclaim the Night march ever into Soho and having the political evening of my life. But I think things have changed a bit. Now Soho is a favorite feminist battleground. Margaret Thatcher has just called for a return to Victorian values. The women's movement has begun to disagree among ourselves about pornography, about how to campaign about it and whether to campaign about it. And I'm confused. I don't know how far the politics of female rage take us, and I don't know whether I want to go that way.
So it seems to me the sort of problem is really that either we sort of embrace the sort of position that says we've all got to get out on the streets, we've all got to do something, we've got to experience our anger and experience our togetherness in it, which does seem, inadequate, I suppose. But at the same time, if we reject that, we could be sort of immobilized in terms of, you know, just sort of intellectualizing, just analysis. If we think, well, what we do with porn is we have to analyze it, we have to try and understand it, we may well end up by doing nothing about it, you know, by sort of simply rendering ourselves immobile and cut off from a lot of women who haven't reached that position. So I find it very difficult, you know, to know precisely.
Anger is like a first stage you go through. First of all, maybe you should be angry and then perhaps move on to analysis past that.
Yeah, but
I don't know what you do after that.
Yeah, but what are you being angry about? I mean, because there seems to be two reasons that people get angry about pornography. One is the idea that there is some connection between pornographic imagery and actual offences against women, right? So you're getting angry against the pornographic image because it causes something that you don't like and that you don't understand, the worst of which is rape and maybe beyond that death, yeah? And the other reason for getting angry is that actually within the image there is a violence there which is against the body or the object of women. If it's the first, you're into dangerous territory because you're making an assumption about what images can do. You're assuming they can make people, like Pavlov's dog, attack other people, yeah? And if it's the second thing, then what do you mean by pornography? Because a lot of soft porn, in a kind of legal sense, does not contain violence. You know, Penthouse does not contain violent images.
So you think we shouldn't be angry? There's nothing to be angry
about? I want to know what I'm supposed to be angry about. You know, I think it has to be clarified what we're supposed to be angry about.
I can remember when beauty contests were the object of considerable anger. The Miss World contest was actually brought to an abrupt televisual halt in 1971 by a group of British feminists. And it started in 1968 in the United States with Miss America. In the mid-70s, I remember fury about advertising. And there's all the Naked Ape stuff that The Guardian has done since then. All sorts of different images have come up, quite rightly, for considerable feminist criticism and analysis. What I'm curious about is why porn has become so central to that criticism.
I mean, I think one thing that you've got is that because pornography is something so tangible and so visible, it's actually there. It's something you can throw things at. Whereas the fact that women who work in the home are isolated, or, you know, other things that we feel about ourselves and about ourselves sexually aren't things that you can actually sort of see.
Do we want any legal changes? Can the state ever be an ally around representations of women or sexuality?
Yeah, but what exactly do you want the law to mobilise around, right? I mean, I agree with you that you can't isolate pornography and you have to look at stuff like advertising. But at the same time, I think there's two different debates passing around. One is about ideas about representations of sexuality, and maybe leading on from that, ideas about woman as object, right? A little why the representation of sexuality should be debasing is not because it's to do with any notion of the erotic, because it's transforming woman to an object, right? And the other argument, which does link up with that, is the idea of violence against women. Now, if it's the violence argument that's upsetting people, then soft porn should be, like, dismissed. It's irrelevant, because upmarket erotica, like stuff that people, Helmut Newton, photographers like that, books by John Hedgecoe, well-known photographer, those glossy coffee table books, never been censored. Yet most of the images do with death. Half the women got their heads missing or other bits missing. You know, and if it's violence, then, you know, look at the books costing 15 quid, not, you know, £1.50 in W.H. Smith's.
But is that to argue that you extend control of images through a state apparatus or through a campaign, or you try to make different images, or what? I mean, what about the sort of great fascination of the women's movement in some sense? Can we have a feminist erotica? Can we have any kind of feminist representations of things like our own bodies? Or are we going to be complete iconoclasts and simply not represent them at all?
See that?
That whole discussion moves over into the same sort of questions that you were brought up a bit earlier, Mandy, about why is it that pornography's become such an area of concern. First of all, there's the question of the kinds of strategies that are adopted and the sort of way in which it has become an area of concern. But then there's the way in which it reaches over into the fact that there's been a whole reappropriation by feminism in a different sort of way, or asking if it can be in a different sort of way. The question focuses back on those kinds of issues around sexuality, around how we understand it, and around also, I think, in relation to how it can be sort of brought out into the open. And they seem to be sort of questions of strategy, questions of discussion about, you know, what a feminist politics about sexuality might constitute. And I think that discussions about pornography are largely misconceived because they do seems to me, reconstruct sexuality, pornography very much around ideas of male sexuality. But it is something that you can do. Otherwise, we're into a whole series of discussions about what representations of women mean, and as Cathy said earlier, how they kind of register. And they seem to me to be, you know, one is about how feminists act about things that they think are important and want to change. And the other is also about that, but in a much more abstracted, removed kind of way.
So how do we campaign? I mean, simply in terms of educating people about images?
Can I just say something? I mean, I don't know anything about the law, so I'm not even going to begin to talk about it, but just following on from what you were saying was, I think sometimes you can become like totally obsessed with the image, like it holds the truth, you know, that's where exploitation hangs out, and you look at the picture like it's going to reveal it, you know, like Pandora's box. But one of the things I was thinking about, this idea about a feminist erotica, is like maybe we're on a like kind of Sherlock Holmes expedition, but looking in the wrong place, because I think that the context in which a photograph is shown makes an amazing difference. And one of the things I noticed looking through women's magazines is a photograph that looks okay as far as I'm concerned. Something like a health magazine, right, which is of a woman swimming, you know, she's suddenly like leaping out the water. You put that into Penthouse and you suddenly start going, oh my God, look at this, it's pornography, you know? And I think that maybe there's an occasion for actually attending to how images are circulated, how they're distributed, who they're shown to, you know, who's producing them, that kind of thing.
Well, perhaps the possibility of feminist erotica is something we're all looking forward to, or indeed enjoy in particular contexts now. And then there's pornography, which we wouldn't have anything to do with.
Yes.
And I think it's to make pornography too separate from the other kinds of images that are surrounding us, and also to make our own reactions to it, or to kind of separate it off again around, well, this is something for men, like.
Yes, and I think
and
that
not for women.
But also,
I'm not convinced about that.
Sorry, but also I think. Say like the politics of anger actually set you up into, well, people who follow that set you up into a situation where if you disagree with that sort of idea, you're actually thought of as being sort of like awful maybe, or, you know, people can't understand how you can't read, you can read this image in a way that's different to them. And if you actually say, well, actually, I don't quite see what you're talking about, or something like that, it's outrageous. But I think that there's a lot of ambiguity in a lot of the images that, or pornographic images that I've seen, or ambiguity in the way that I react to them.
Do you think that you can become as offensive, politically offensive in your enjoyment, or we could as feminists, as we have become politically offensive in our outrage? I mean, it seems...
Well,
you know, just really aggressive. I mean, it seems like we're allowed to be aggressively declaring how pissed off we are about these images, but we aren't equally allowed to be aggressively present an image and say, this is what I really want, or how about my pleasure?
But a lot of the images, if you look at them, it's very like deja vu. I mean, you can look through the magazine, and from my point of view, one of the basic problems with pornography is it is incredibly boring. I mean, there's a sense in which the images are very, very repetitious. The women chosen are very, very repetitious. I mean, part of the fetishistic pleasure is about that circuit of repetition, right? Same locations, you go, oh God, you know, is it going to be a beach shot or is it going to be a bed shot? Oh, guess what, it's a bed shot. Next page, it's a beach shot, you know. And there's a sense in which, one of the reasons why I object to pornography is far from it being like, you know, the lifeblood of the erotic, which is what it's supposed to be, is that all it's about, well, first, it's boring, right?
It is very
Problem number one. Problem number two, it's actually very unerotic, because it's all about, like, genital sex. It's all about naughty bits. And the idea of sex being to do with anything else, right? I mean, the fact that, you know, the Japanese tell us we have 5,000 erotic zones between there and there, you know, it just doesn't feature in a pornographic magazine. And if anything, I think it colludes with outmoded versions of the family, because it enjoys its position as rebel. It says, guess what, this is the deviant bit, you know, after the day's work, we're the naughty bit. I mean, if that's what being naughty's about, I mean, you know, why not play safe? Because it's incredibly boring, in the end, as a system of visual pleasure, you know?
If it's true that pornography has as much to do with masculine power as with sex, what kinds of erotic representations can women enjoy?
You know the porno trade paints a picture of me, saying sex is beautiful, sex is me. But I'd like to know who gets excited by the stuff I don't, and I think that it's kind of rough because they don't give the cunt a name.
Next week, a look at the way advertising affects our picture of women's sexuality. That's at 11 o'clock next Monday. And there's a booklet available which develops the arguments put forward in this series, price £1.25. If you'd like a copy, please send a cheque or postal order payable to Channel 4 to Pictures of Women, P.O. Box 4000, London W3 6XJ, or Glasgow G12 9JQ, or Belfast BT2 7FE. And if you have any comments to make about Channel 4 programmes, you can exercise your right to reply by sending a letter to Right to Reply, Channel 4 Television, 60 Charlotte Street, London W1P 2AX, or by calling in personally at our video box at the same address. Well, it's nearly 12 o'clock and time for us to part company again. But before you go, here's some food for your dreams. Tomorrow night at 9, Peter O'Toole and Richard Roundtree star in Man Friday, an ingenious reworking of the Robinson Crusoe story. So as I say goodnight, spare a thought for two people whose day's work is just beginning. And don't be fooled by the one who thinks he's civilized.
Ah! Scream! Ah! Scream! Whistle! Ah! Ha! Cough! Ha! 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 Laugh! Boo-hoo! Hoo! Cry! Ah! Scream! Yes, very good, very good. We mustn't forget what we're here for, must we, eh? Dig, dig. Dig, dig. Friday is good. Master is good.
Suffused with herbs and spices from four continents. I'm being boring. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Getting your head down, sweetie. Jolly good idea.
Well, one of those. No matter how many times you see it, you always laugh. You always have to laugh. Well, now, we have a break now, but we'll be back in a moment with part 3 when Nanette will introduce us to the favourite male TV personality. And as I said before, there'll be no sour grapes from me, unless it's somebody I, unless it's somebody I think it is. But we'll see in a minute. See in a minute. I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump.
Now, Silkians creates hairspray. Not just hold, conditioned hold. So it's flexible, touchable, shakeable. Silkians holds perfectly, while your hair moves beautifully. New Silkians hairspray has conditioned hold. Get hold of it.
Is the number up for other hatchbacks? You might decide it is, because now there is 205, the new number to be reckoned with from Peugeot. 205, with 65.7 mpg petrol economy that beats every other 5-door hatchback, plus outstanding performance. 205 lifts you out of that small car feeling, thanks to a new suspension system that gives you big car space and a beautiful big car ride. Add 5-door versatility and a starting price of just $3,895. And it not only challenges other hatchbacks, you could say a day of reckoning has arrived. The 5-door Peugeot 205, the new number to be reckoned with at your Peugeot Talbot dealer, now.
Nougat, caramel and whole hazelnuts covered in delicious milk chocolate. That's nuts, now only 15p.
Chew. Chew. Chew.
Lemsip, why suffer when you've got a cold?
It's sale time. Plenty of savings are in store for you in the MEB sale. It's on now, so you'd better hurry to your local MEB shop.
You may look fit outside, but it doesn't follow that you're fit inside. A lot of today's food hasn't got enough fibre to keep your digestive system in shape. There's more natural fibre in wheat bran than any other food. And the original high-fibre cereal is made with wheat bran. It's Kellogg's All Bran. Eat yourself fitter the easy way, like millions of people with Kellogg's All Bran.
Glad you're back with us. Well, now for the Top Male Personality Award. Now, for the past 5 years, in spite of repeated attempts by Jimmy Young to try and rig the voting, the award has gone to the same man. Now, after the votes were counted this year, Jimmy Young tried to get a government inquiry, but to no avail. I'm afraid he couldn't do it because they had voted for him too. So here he is. He's that great golfer, occasional broadcaster. He is that truly terrific Terence Wogan.
Thank you. I got a telegram, a genuine telegram here. And it's at times like this you regret the onset of middle age and the fact that the eyesight's going. Very many congratulations again. How about retiring and giving us young chaps a chance? Lots of love, Jimmy Young. Well, it wasn't, actually. It's from Matthew Kelly, who has in fact run me very close this year, I understand, from Tony Pegram. Probably a sight too close. I suppose it may seem that coming here for, say, the 6th year running and winning this, that it must get easy, that it's easy to do. It doesn't get any easier because every year you think, this must be the last. They must have copped on to me by next year, or got fed up, or both. Well, I think I should have quit about 3 years ago because I'm sure you're only voting for me out of pity now. You think I'd be disappointed without it, and I would. I just want to say that before I throw myself on your sympathy yet again, I'd like to say that I hope it won't change me for yet another year, and that for as long as anybody wants to watch my programs and takes the trouble and can be bothered to vote for me, I'll be delighted to come along and take this award. I'm honored and pleased to get it. Thank you. Chas and Maggie Cheeseburger. Maggie Cheeseburger, you're welcome. What about you, Chas? Do you come from other parts, or are you more or less...
I originate pretty close. I come from Manchester, but I've been living in Hampshire for 7 years now.
And what do you do?
I'm a business planning analyst.
Well, you're just in the right place here.
Tonight's third special award is for the stunning recreation of events in the 1960s that traumatized America and Americans, and indeed people everywhere. Perhaps only a British television company could achieve the essential perspective on the killing of John F. Kennedy. It was no foregone conclusion that any television company could produce a drama of great authenticity and power. But Britain's Central Independent Television did that memorably last autumn, and my award is for its tremendous, outstanding performance. My special award to Central is collected here this evening by its players, actress Blair Brown and actor Martin Sheen.
We're accepting this on behalf of Central Television. They thank you, but we would like to make a special thanks, I think, to them. To Bob Phillis and Margaret Matheson, who made it possible, Andrew Brown, who was our producer, Reg Gadney, who wrote this wonderful screenplay, and Jim Goddard for guiding us through all of that. As Americans, we're often very jealous of the quality of British dramatic series, and it was a real treat for us to have a chance to work. So thank you for loaning us Central.
I would also like to convey regards and regrets from our dear colleague and friend, John Shea, who played Robert Kennedy. All of us involved with the Kennedy show felt that it was really a celebration of the great spirits of John and Robert Kennedy, who taught us that courage is the first virtue, as well as its own reward, and who reminded us that we have miles to go before we sleep and promises to keep. Thanks very much.
I do want to go to Billy's. You were nice.
Not at all.
When I come back, we'll try again for another baby.
Yes. You'll get stronger in Greece.
Are you going to stay here for the rest of the summer?
Yes.
When you put the St. Christopher medal in Patrick's coffin, I know you did that for us. But do you remember our wedding day when I gave it to you? Well, here. This is for you. See, I never want to lose you. Never.
And now, the award for the funniest person on TV. Now, this man, this young man, I've known him for a few years, and when I first saw him work, it was in a club, and he had everyone, the whole audience were rolling on the floor, just rolling on the floor. He was the chef. But he's done so well since then, and for the second year running, and here he is in action, the funniest person is Mr. Russ Abbott. Let's have a look.
We are four super spades in our super Lorex suits. Our hair is greased right from the tips down to the roots. And as we sing and dance, all the soul sisters scream and shout. Oh yeah, but there is one thing wrong, and that's what we're talking about. One of us is out of time. When we all go ooh, he should go ooh too, but he doesn't, you will find. One of us is slow, and maybe don't you know, he will have to go this time. One of us is out of time, yeah, one of us is out of time.
Unfortunately, Russ could be with us this evening. And here he is, Russ Abbott! Do as long as you like, we're running early.
We're running early, are we? As long as I like to use you, that I can't do is here. No, joking apart, seriously. What can I say? This is absolutely marvellous. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you all tonight, because as you can see, I'm in London at the Royalty Theatre to accept this award. But, no. Really, I would like to say to win this a second time is absolutely marvellous. It was a bonus to me last year to win it. It's a great thrill, and it's the greatest sort of compliment that anybody can play is when the viewers and the actual public vote for you. This is absolutely sensational, but to win it a second time is a great thrill. Thank you most sincerely. I'd like to Also, if I may thank my brother John for giving me Vince Prince, and also the children. No, this is true. It was one of his original suits. I'd like to thank my kids, actually, and especially my wife, Trish, for all the support they've given me over the years and the comfort. Because it's hard to find material and find ideas nowadays with the way things are going, the pace of things. And the children took me to see this film, Jaws, in 3D. I mean, this seems to be a new thing coming out now. And it frightened the life out of me. I mean, I haven't had a bath since. But the amazing thing is, I walked in the cinema, put the glasses on, you see, and I was walking down the aisle, and I bumped into a guy and I said, "Excuse me, where's the no smoking area?" And he said, "Don't ask me, I'm in the film." Which, and there was an Irishman in the shallow end. But I would really like to say a very, very special thank you once again to the viewers for voting for me. And that's all I can say. It's a great thrill. Thank you. Thank you.
Don't go. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We still got a minute, and it was very nice. All you said was beautiful, and the joke was marvellous, and it's lovely to be working with you again. It really is. And I love the bit you said about your children supporting you. You know, but you should be supporting them. You know that, don't you? Yeah. You never thought of that, did you?
I never thought about that, Bruce.
So, tell us what's in line for you next year. What are you up to? Or this year?
Well, as I say, one or two things in line. I'm on holiday at the moment, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah?
But, because you do tend to miss work.
Is that right? You're going to do Little Me, the one I did? Or is it a rumour?
Well,
you can tell me. I mean, nobody looking.
Is there nobody listening?
But it's a wonderful show, and I hope you have as much fun doing it as I did. Now, look, let's do a joke, because we've never done a joke for ages.
What was the one last time we did? Sorry, go on, you know the joke, please.
No, well, do this one. We'll do this one. We'll do one. We might be running. We might do two. You never know. Okay, I say to you, do you know how to sell a deaf man a parrot? Do you know the one?
No.
I say, do you know how to sell a deaf man a parrot, Russ? And you say, I don't know, Bruce.
No, I don't know, Bruce. How do you sell a deaf man a
parrot?
Don't rush it,
please. Cool, I thought you were better than work, but you've gone off. Right. Tell me, Russ, do you know how to sell a deaf man a parrot?
I don't know, Bruce. How do you sell a deaf man a parrot?
You want to buy a parrot? Now we'll do your one. We'll do my one. Have we still got time? I can't do those topical jokes. They really are a bit strong. I'll tell you after the show, but the audience here, but they really are strong. Go on, what was the one we did?
What we did? Right. What did we talk about? The Boy Scout, the dib.
Yeah, the dib. Oh, they said dib.
Dib. You know, riding along on the crest of a wave when the sun is in the sky. All of the rise on the distant horizon, the sun keeps shining by.
He's going like that. We're all right. Oh, sorry. Finish. Thank you, Russ. Well, I think we've got time for... Pity really, because I've got 6 Malcolm Allisons, 4 Len Faircloughs, 4 John and Chris's, and 1 Mark Thatcher. Still, we haven't got time for that, so...
Just as well, Bruce.
Good night from us.
Is it good night from us?
And good night from Tony. And thank you for being with us. It's been a lovely evening as far as we're concerned, and you've been a super audience. Good night.
Bruce, it's not the end yet, Bruce. No, you finished us too quickly. It's
sorry.
over to Tony.
Oh, that's right. Yes, sorry. Because I thought it was the end of the show. Sorry about that, Tony. Yes. Fine. I'll never win another.
Thanks, Bruce. A moment ago, I was talking about a British perspective on American events. But some weeks before the screening of Kennedy, British viewers were held captive in their homes by some 16 hours of television, which presented a very American view of world affairs. The Winds of War was the $62 million blockbusting main event of last autumn, and it was watched by some 13 million people on each of its 8 nights. My 4th and last special award honors that very special event.
Дорогі друзі, моих поездок фёдат канцелярия Гитлера и Кремль. Гитлеру такое никогда не удастся, я пью за это превыше всего.
Happen Festival.